Enemy power-up detected.
This is Incoming Missile, a MechWarrior Online Podcast. 07 MechWarriors, this is Cosent Indigo and Captain Cat, back with another episode of the Incoming Missile Podcast. Today we have the first of our Target Lock series, where we focus the reticle on a personality or member of the MechWarrior community and talk to them about the content that they create. So we're starting today with Fiorabunny. Fiorabunny is a MechWarrior Online streamer that I'm sure you are all familiar with, and if you aren't, hopefully you will be by the end of the podcast. Fiorabunny is a great streamer that has been playing MechWarrior for about 6 months now. Today we talk about what's brought her to the MechWarrior community, some of the challenges that go with being a streamer, and some of her thoughts about MechWarrior Online in general. So thanks for listening today to the first of our featured podcasts on other content creators in the MechWarrior Online community. We do hope you can get along to check out Fiora on her channel. That's at twitch.tv/Fiorabunny. We will put a link to her channel in the show notes. As always, we are interested in your feedback, so make sure you tell us what you think of today's podcast and perhaps give us suggestions for other content creators that we could interview or feature. You can tweet at us, IncomingP on Twitter, flick us an email at incomingmissilepodcast@gmail.com, or of course leave comments in the YouTube videos below. We hope you enjoy the conversation, and we'll see you next time. All right, welcome everyone, and we are very lucky to have joining the Incoming Missile podcast today Fiorabunny, and Fiorabunny is a streamer that if you haven't already seen, then we would certainly encourage you to go along and see. And what we're going to do today is have a chat to her, find out a little bit about what she thinks of MechWarrior and what it's like being a streamer, and where she thinks the current state of the game is. So welcome Fiorabunny, thank you for coming on today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's very much our pleasure. So as I said, we are very keen to talk to other community members, other personalities in the MechWarrior community, of which you are one. And look, before we did talk a little bit about the game, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So yeah, my name is Fiorabunny. I stream MechWarrior Online pretty regularly, usually Tuesday through Thursday. Friday, Saturday, usually stream something else. Currently, I'm running on Battletech and the Rogue Tech mod. Been a lot of fun. Other than that, I'm 6'2". I'm married to my lovely wife who does pretty much all the housework, and I think I got a pretty sweet deal out of that. And I don't know. I'm just I'm working my hardest to get this whole streaming thing down, and I anticipate trying to get together some YouTube stuff in the near future.
Nice. I mean, it's obviously one of the things that I was really keen to talk to you about today. That as a consumer of streams and as someone that watches a lot of MechWarrior content, sometimes you don't. You just take it for granted, basically. That people turn up and that they play the game, or they have all these things set up and provide that content for us. But I mean, can you talk a little bit about what that is like? You say that you're trying to get it up and running. I mean, what is the it in all of this, and what are some of the challenges that go along with being a streamer?
I mean, just mostly just having presentation, being in the right state of mind, all these sort of like little pieces that come together. Because I definitely want to be able to provide the best content that I can at all times. So I want to be in my best frame of mind and having a good time. That's the biggest imperative to me, is for me to be having fun. Because if I'm not having fun, I'm sure that translates out, and I'm sure anybody watching me can tell that I'm not having fun. And if I'm forcing myself to play a game that I'm not having fun in, then it's just going to be it's going to be a bad time for everyone around, and that's not going to be great. And then other than that, there's just a lot of like off-stream stuff that you might not think about. Just getting audio levels set up, getting like things like alert notifications set up properly, and just like lights and just like all these like production things that I kind of had to learn on the fly, and did a lot of Googling and tried to get figured out, and asked for some help for some other from some other people. And just there's so much that goes into it that it's it can be a little overwhelming if you don't try to just take it one step at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly imagine we, experienced something relatively similar with the podcast, but, I think maybe only 10% of the requirements. But, I mean, for someone, I guess, that was, wanting to set up and become a streamer, there's a lot more popping up. I mean, would there be any advice or, tactics or things that you think people should know ahead of time?
Oh, okay. So if you want to like make streaming your career and want to be like a successful streamer, there's a couple things you need to do. First, you need to realize that you either need to be really, really good at a game, or you need to be really, really entertaining. And you can kind of make up for a lack of one with an excess of another, because that's what people watch a stream for, is for at some point they watch it to be entertained. They want to be interacted with. Otherwise, they just watch YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the sort of core of what to do. Alternative to that, like just getting into like equipment and all that stuff isn't 100% necessary until you start to really get somewhere. But just working on interacting with people, as well as finding a community that you can be seen in, which is what I really struck gold on with the MechWarrior community. Because if you try to stream something popular right now, say like Overwatch or League of Legends or Dota 2 or something like that, you're going to be at the bottom of page 35 with 0 viewers, and nobody's going to click on you, and nobody's going to see who you are or give you a chance. I was lucky enough to get into the MechWarrior community, which is a smaller community but a very passionate one. And when I started streaming, there was probably 10 other people streaming, if that. So that way, people saw me, they said, "Oh, a new streamer, I haven't seen her before, I check her out." And that's kind of just where I started in April, and I've been growing ever since. And it's pretty crazy, wild ride. But I would definitely make sure you're having fun, make sure you're interacting with people, and just make sure it's just a good time all around.
Yeah, that sounds like really good advice. I mean, truth be told, it was what brought me to watch your streams as well. Was there isn't necessarily a lot of streamers out there, and particularly maybe not a lot of streamers that do it as more than a hobby. That are putting that effort in, and you do pick up on those things that you were saying about what's important, about how much fun that the players are having, and how they're engaging with the community, and that's kind of what brings you back. And for me, that was one thing that had brought me back to your streams, was that element of fun and having a good time.
Oh, thank you. I try very hard.
So is it something that you'd recommend? I mean, it does sound fun, but with a lot of these things, the work behind it and some of the challenges in making it successful can be something that take a bit of working through or getting used to. I mean, would it be something that you'd recommend?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I'm very fortunate in my life that both my partners are willing to support me as I work on turning this into like an actual sort of like self-sustaining venture, Yeah, in that way you can think of it as your own sort of like small business, where like with any small business it's going to take a lot of time and investment, not only like financially but like emotionally and just time wise to get it off the ground.
Yeah.
And it's not going to, you're not going to be like popular overnight. Like it takes time. And I feel like if you are in a place in your life where you can do that, and this is something that you're passionate about and you want to do it, you can definitely do it. But it's going to be hard, especially if you have to like, hold down a day job at the same time, because then you're going to be basically having 2 jobs. You're going to be working, 8 hours a day. You're going to get home, and then you're going to have to eat dinner and go straight into streaming. And it's going to be work. Like it's going to be effort. And if you're willing to put forth the effort, then more power to you.
I mean, I guess that's behind the scenes, that was kind of one of the things that stuck to me, was that it does look like one of those things that would be really fun, that you're getting on and, engaging with the community and playing the game and all of those things that go with it. But it was that behind the scenes, or the consistency and the amount of work that you had to put in just to make sure that you showed up, because if people subscribe, or if people get drawn to the content that you provide, they want that content, they want it there when they can expect it, when they expect it.
Right.
And that kind of pressure of being regular, being consistent, seems like, as you say, it is real work, even though it can be fun. That would seem to me like that would be one of the biggest challenges, is making sure that you are consistent and people feel that they can rely on you to entertain them, when they tune in.
Right. That's a point that I actually kind of forgot to bring up when you were asking me about advice, but consistency is definitely like a huge thing when it comes to streaming, because if somebody knows that you're on at this time all the time, and that they can trust that you're going to be on and that they can be entertained by you, that's going to help you retain viewership so well. And then beyond that, yeah, like it can be difficult, especially if you're not feeling well, or if you're not having a great day or whatever, to just be like, but like that's like any job, right? Problem is that your mood is definitely going to affect how your stream goes. Yeah. Whereas like if you're just working your regular 9 to 5, you can probably be in a bad mood and get through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's an amount of sort of like just like sort of pepping yourself up even if you're having a bad day, and maybe you want to relate to your viewers like that, and you're just gonna tell them like, oh, I'm not having the greatest day, and that you could bring that into your audience, but that depends on what kind of viewership you have and what your audience is like. I'm pretty sure I like to think that the community that I've built and the positivity around the MechWarrior community has been really good to me. There's been days where I've canceled the stream just because I just know that if I was streaming, I wouldn't be having a good time, and it just wouldn't be great for anybody all around. And people were understanding that, I can't be 100% all the time. Yeah. But I definitely aim for as much consistency as I can. And that's why I've been making changes to my schedule recently. I used to stream 6 days a week, and that was starting to really sort of not give me time to do anything else. And so that's why you need to find that sort of that work-life balance,
Yeah, I mean, sitting down to do anything at the same time for 6 days a week seems such a challenge. And that had always seemed like something that would be a risk for me, was that when the activity of playing a computer game or talking with people, which is genuinely something that you love, it would suck if it became a grind. It would suck if you were sitting down and, as you were saying, you're either sick or you're not feeling particularly entertaining, or that work-life balance might be out. Anytime it kind of became a grind, maybe the salt levels rise, and the audience would pick up on that. But that was the thing that seemed so intimidating to me, to sit down and do the same thing every day at the same time. Particularly if it's on top of the work that most of us do, where you get paid and you do as part of your life. That seemed like a real challenge.
Right. Yeah, it definitely is, and I'm extremely thankful to the community that I have. They're usually very understanding. Like if I don't need to be there, or like if I can't be there, or they just help. Like they give me positive energy. So like even if I do start a stream off and I'm like not really feeling it, it's just really nice to see the same, maybe not faces, but like screen names again and again. And it's just like, it's kind of surreal that like, I only started this in April, and there's so many people that like, I'm just like, hey, they get home from work, or they're at work or whatever, and they're just like, oh, it's 4:00 or whatever time it is for them. Like, Fiora's on. I'm gonna go. Like, I'm gonna watch her. I'm gonna turn on her channel. I like her content, and it's just, I don't know. It's strange to me. Like, it's just like I started this venture off as just like a fairly regular person, and I just wanted to like play games and have fun, and it's not that I don't understand that other people want to have like fun with me. It's just like, I see myself as a normal person, so it's like really neat that people want to hang out with me and play video games with me.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit before the podcast about how, in doing all of this, you adopt a little bit of a personality. I mean, you get a pilot name or you get a screen name, and you still do see yourself as normal, but people start calling you by that other name. My unit mates who I play with, kind of every other night, they call me Cozen. They don't even know my real name apart from a couple of them. So, yeah, I can understand how that must be a little bit strange that you're just sitting down as you, but people are tuning in to see Fiorabunny.
Right. I mean, that's pretty much just it. Like, I don't know how to phrase it better.
Is it? I mean, do you think that it's easier to do when Fiorabunny is not that different from who you are in your everyday life, that you don't necessarily need to adopt too much of a different stance? I know some streamers do. Some streamers play characters, but what I get from your streams is that sincerity that comes through. You are just being you, and I think that does help the content.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've strived for. Some people do play characters, and there's a certain amount of that. There are people who play 100% characters, where the person that they are in stream is nothing like they are in real life, and that's how they do. And if they're if they're not a super public facing outward person in real life, and they can adopt this persona and make it work, then all the more power to them, and that's how they want to do it. That's cool. But yeah, me personally, I am pretty much just me. I'm not really doing anything outwards of that. It's kind of like me at 105%, but it's just me. And I feel like that is something I have strived for, specifically just because like you said, it comes through and people can sort of notice the I don't know, I want to say authenticity, of just me being me. But it helps because if I'm just being honest, you don't have to hide anything when you're just presenting the truth, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And personally, of course, the streamers that I'm drawn to do tend to be the ones that are being themselves, and whether that's them as kind of salty and competitive, I tune in to see that, or whether it's people that are just people that you'd like to kind of have a beer with or share a coffee with, like yourself, then that's something you tune in for as well. You did mention the MechWarrior community and the community that you are developing, that are consuming your content, and you've been playing the game for coming up 6 months. I mean, how have you found that community, and does it differ from any other gaming communities that you've been involved in?
Oh, definitely in a huge way. So I'm told, and it seems true, that the MechWarrior community is generally older, say 35 and older, as the Battletech franchise was popular in the 80s and then didn't really get much more until starting recently. So most people who grew up on it are playing MechWarrior, and they're they have day jobs and they play the game, and I think that contributes massively to the lesser amount of sort of toxicity in this game. I used to play some League of Legends, I played Overwatch, I've played all sorts of other games. The level of toxicity is really, really high for a couple of reasons, because the fan base is including of pretty much everybody, from any age, and that includes people who are rather immature. And then on top of that, a lot of those games are just huge. So if you are 100% sure that you will never see, the person on your team ever again, then I guess you won't consider being considerate. You can talk trash all you want to the same person, but in MechWarrior Online, if you talk trash to people too often and spread too much toxicity or salt, people are going to know you. I've seen the same people in my games, I couldn't tell you how many times now at this point. I play this game almost 4 to 6 hours a day, and I see a lot of the same names pop up, and I'm starting to even recognize people's play styles just based on having played against them so many times.
Yeah, I mean, particularly if you're on the same servers. I mean, we're based here in in the Oceanic servers, so the population's even smaller. So you do get to know those names and recognize those play styles. And I guess probably what you've said about the MechWarrior community has been my observation as well. It's tricky, I think, because when you're in the community, it can be hard to have that kind of balanced view of the community. And a lot of people talk about, the toxicity and the salt levels of MechWarrior. But yeah, like you, it seems to me that, it is generally pretty mature. You do get some people that, you think, hey,
Right.
calm down, fella, it's just a game. But it does seem pretty few and far between. And I don't have a lot of experience with other gaming communities, but yeah, MechWarrior has been pretty accepting, and yeah, the some of the content that you see out there and the streamers that you see out there are probably reflective of that. It's generally pretty welcoming, and I'm always amazed at how willing people are to share information and share builds and tips and stuff like that. Do you find that as well?
I always say that, and I think everybody can generally agree. This is like the community is just way nicer than any other community I've met. And if you need a build, everyone has 10, and everyone will tell you that
Everyone's
their
got a
build is the
smoothie link.
best.
Everyone's got a smoothie link ready to drop.
Yeah. If I go on stream and I pick a mech and I'm just like, hey, can somebody throw me a build? I usually get like at least 5 links, if not more.
Yeah, I'm the same. And watching streams, people are so willing to give advice on mechs and give builds and stuff like that. I mean, was it the community? Maybe this is a bit of chicken and egg stuff, but I mean, you talked about MechWarrior being maybe a little bit more of a niche of a community, and that as a streamer, if you are looking to stream, one of those super popular games with massive populations, then you really are competing against just tons and tons of other people doing the same thing. Was it something in particular that drew you to MechWarrior? Were you a fan of Battletech in the 80s and like some of the other mech dads that have come along?
Well, you see, I'm only 26, so I wasn't alive in the 80s. But I did play, and some, I guess some of the more hardcore or like lore-based fans wouldn't quite agree, but I did play Mech Assault and Mech Assault 2 as a kid on the original Xbox, and I had a lot of fun there. But I've always had a passion for giant stompy robots. As a kid, I was super into like Godzilla movies, and from giant monsters becomes giant robots. I got into like Gundam and just like all sorts of like mecha anime. Not quite, Robotech or Macross, but like Gundam and other things.
There's quite a bit of crossover there, with some of those, and look, I see it in the community as well, that there's distinct fans of kind of the Japanese anime and those types of things. So yeah, I mean, there does seem to be the people that kind of lived and breathed it and were old enough to play it in the 80s, but yeah, there's certainly a portion like yourself that have come to it because you're fans of that other, those other genres.
That's about it.
And you stumbled upon MechWarrior? Did you know people that were playing, or?
Oh yeah, no. Hold on, I didn't answer the second half of that question. But yeah, as far as like when I started streaming MechWarrior, previous to that, I had been streaming pretty much exclusively like card games. I'd played Gwent, I played Magic, I played Hearthstone even. Going way back when I streamed for a short time last year for about a month or two before I stopped, and then came back to it probably around March of this year, and then it was in April that I found MechWarrior. I had actually played MechWarrior Online probably like 3-4 years ago. I think if I check my account, I can find a time where I bought like 1500 MC like 3-4 years ago. And I played for probably about a month or two, and I had fun, and it was interesting to me. And just as a streamer, I was looking around for games to stream, and I decided to check. I was like reminded that MechWarrior existed, and I checked it, and I was like, oh, that actually, that's a small enough community that I could probably break into it, and at the very least, it's a game I'd like to get back into. So I kind of hit the perfect balance here of a game I enjoy, a community that I could break into, and like just everything kind of came together.
Nice, and going strong and hopefully getting stronger.
Oh, definitely.
So it would be, I can't, now that I've got the opportunity, I can't not take it and ask you a little bit about, how you feel MechWarrior is going and the state of the game at the moment. You got back into it around 6 months ago, so you've probably seen even quite a bit of change in that time. You engage with the community. No doubt you get a ton of feedback and opinion. I know that you're an avid listener of the podcast, hint, hint. But how do you feel the game is going at the moment? You play it because it's fun, but it is something that's pretty topical. The community talk about how things are going. There does seem to be some major changes or changes at least on the horizon that PGI are making, potentially in the lead up for MechWarrior 5. But I mean, how do you think on that since the time you've started playing? What changes have you seen, and how do you think the current state of the game is?
So the state of the game. It's kind of hard for me. Like, I try not to give out too many big sweeping sort of declarations, as I've only been playing for 6 months, and I don't want to make any sort of waves or big assumptions, because there's people that I'm playing with who've been playing for 4 or more years, and they have a certain expectation of what the game was like or what it should be like, and that's what they want. But I've only been playing for the last 6 months, so I don't know what things like were before engine desync, so to speak. And I honestly don't know if the game would be more fun if some of the changes were reverted and things went back to the way they were. But isn't that how most things are? People don't like change, and they generally try to avoid it. I feel like there's a couple of camps. There's people who want this to be more like tabletop. There's people, and I think I'm kind of in this camp. I want it to be more like just a overall, just like sort of balanced online shooter. And then there's people who just don't really care and will probably play the game until the servers shut down, regardless of what happens. As far as the state of the game goes, the only real issue I have with it is the matchmaking system. I feel like a lot of problems would be solved with if the matchmaking system could be fine-tuned a little bit more. And I think you guys have touched on that as well, where if you have... I genuinely believe there's at least 2 different kinds of players for MechWarrior Online. There are people like... I think I'm in generally the first camp, where I just play this as an online shooter. It's pretty fun. I don't have that much experience with the lore, so I don't need it to be like tabletop. I don't need it to be super 100% lore accurate. But then there are also people who play it because they like the franchise, and this is like the only game that you can really play Battletech in, unless you want to go back to something from 1997. So they want it to be more lore friendly and more like tabletop, and Hairbrain Screams Battletech is really good for that, by the way. But you've got sort of 2 camps. You've got your people who are quote unquote tryhards, and then you've got your people who are quote unquote mech dads. And if you were able to sort of sort these people out through their PSR or their matchmaking system, and have the people who want to shoot giant robots and be like serious about it play against people who want to do that, and then the people who want to be more lore friendly and maybe plus play less powerful builds and have a beer or 2 while playing, and if they could get matched against each other, I feel like people would have a lot better time if they were matched against people who wanted to do what they wanted to do. Yeah,
I think it's a really good take. And yeah, obviously that was something that we covered as well, that we see that that's at the heart of some of the challenges and some of the issues that people face, that if you were just getting matched against people of relatively equal skill, and if there was good ways to determine what skill level you were at or what you wanted to be at, you're probably going to have more fun, because you're going to be playing people that are potentially playing it for the same reason that you are.
Right. And that's like another thing that kind of like gets into me, because like otherwise I'm still relatively new to this game. There's a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of content, so I'm still somewhat content just exploring new mechs, new builds, new weight classes. I only recently got into mediums. When I first started playing, I played a lot of lights and assaults, some heavies, but I'm getting into mediums now, and like there's just so much build variety. And whenever I see somebody come up with a new build that's actually like fun and effective and like kind of different, um, I still genuinely have a lot of fun playing the game. So it's hard for me to speak to the experiences of people who've been playing the game for 4 years and maybe have pretty much done it all and want the game to be a certain way. And I genuinely don't envy PGI having to try and to make all of these different groups happy.
Yeah, that's one of the things we try and cover as well, is that it is a bit of a challenge, really. You can't please all people all the time, as a famous American president said. But yeah, look, I agree, and I'm more in your camp as well. As the potato of the podcast, I've been playing for coming up on 2 years, and I'm not that good at the game, and truth be told, I don't really want to be that good at the game, because I love to just log in, hang out with friends, and pilot some stompy robots. And I'm not as invested in that the decisions that they might make, particularly if they're really detailed decisions, damage outputs and stuff like that, they don't. Not as impactful for me, because I'm not actually good enough to take advantage of it anyway. So, I get my fun out of the game in different ways, so the participation, the fun in the mech lab, the content and the camaraderie that goes with the game are the things that I get out of it. And so I'm not as impacted by some of those things. So yeah, I can totally agree with what you're saying there about, some general camps or some general cohorts that PGI have to factor for. I mean, on that line though, I've talked a little bit about kind of what I get enjoyment from. I mean, what is it particularly that you enjoy about MechWarrior? What's some of the most fun parts of it for you?
Oh man, there's honestly so much, and I feel like that's where I'm really fortunate, is because I've been playing this game so much, and I'm generally not the kind of person to play a game just sort of all the time, and it's been genuinely surprising to me that I've been able to just keep finding new and interesting ways to sort of entertain myself and entertain my audience. But there's so many ways to have fun in this game, and I'm still exploring all of them. It's always fun to sort of carry the game in a light and just have like a crazy game where you're like, oh yeah, I was in the light, and I came up behind the assaults, and I squirreled them, or I killed one or hurt one, or I gave our team some information that helped us win, or like then you got the flip side where you're like, I was in the assaults and I was the big front line, and I turned a corner and I vomited so much damage onto this enemy assault that they got intimidated and they started backing up, and I helped us charge in and whatnot. And then conversely, there are a few like times where you're like, hey guys, I'm right here and I could use some help, and you don't quite get help, but that's just the way it goes in anything. But there's honestly, I could probably spend all day talking about different ways to enjoy myself in this game. Coming up with builds is really fun and interesting, and discussing them with members of my community. In fact, I don't know, it was semi recently, Complete Failure MMO on Twitch came to me, and I think he's been spreading it among all the streamers, is that he's got this particular Wolverine build that is like, it uses like all of the slots, all of the tonnage. I guess I'm finding out that the Wolverine has really good really good hitboxes, and it's this medium build that I can consistently do like about 1,000 damage in like every game, and it's just this ridiculous build, and that's really what turned me on to mediums. And just like being able to have played the game, I think for 5 months at that point, and just like somebody comes at me with something that's completely new to me anyway, and it's really interesting, and I love trying it out. And there's so much to explore, really. I think the fun of exploring is what I guess I would really condense that down to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That just the diversity in the game and the different ways you can have fun is definitely what brings me to it as well. I think in the free-to-play world, they call that keeping an open loop. They keep a reason to keep coming back to it. I mean, I don't know if you're the same, but I love the collectible aspect of the game. I'm always poor. I'm always got no C-bills because I'm always looking to buy a new mech. I spend all my MC on camos and decals and stuff like that. So I'm constantly don't have enough for stuff. But yeah, like you, I just like that. I like that each time you come to the game, you can either try a new build or, I guess if you play enough, then games maybe begin to play out the same way. But I've found that almost every game is different, and if you find that a game or games are starting to go the same way, then you can opt to do something completely different. You can opt for a different game mode or a different mech type, and it's certainly something that I like about the game as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's always a different build to try, and it's always you can always go a little crazy and try something new out. And then like even beyond that, just going through there's play styles for each kind of mech. There's different weapon styles. There's all sorts of different things you can do, and I just love that I can get into a game and even 6 months on playing this game 4 to 6 hours a day, that I can have a game, like even just in quick play, I can have a game and I can think about it after I've died or whatever, and I can see like what I did right, what I did wrong, and I can continually just improve myself and see where things go.
Nice. All right, I have some quick fire questions that I'll throw at you, and just so people can understand kind of where your preferences lie. IS or clan?
Oh, that's kind of a mean question, right? I'm gonna get flack no matter what I say.
You can abstain if you want.
Let's see. So I generally prefer clan when it comes to especially the heavier mechs, because I love the mobility. I need the ability to reposition, especially in quick play. It's kind of hard to play an Annihilator if you're only going to go 40, and it's kind of hard to keep up with the team. But as it starts to get into like mediums and lights, and even some heavies, I've recently found out that I really, really love the roughneck on the IS side. But
Nice.
honestly, I like good mechs, and there are fun things to be had on both sides.
Okay, that's a nice segue. Do you have a favorite mech?
A favorite mech? That is an even bigger question. I might cut that down to like, I was actually asked this on stream couple of nights ago, and I could barely cut it down to weight class. And like assault, I really like my Mad Cat Mark II. It looks good. It's got a lot of good builds you can throw on it. It's fun to play. And then like in heavies, I've recently fallen in love with the Roughneck, but one of my first mechs that was gotten for me was a Hellbringer, and I laser vomit this, laser vomit that, but I was a newer player and I needed C-bills. And then in the mediums, like I said, the Complete Failures, Wolverine has been doing wonders for me, but there's a lot of build variety in mediums, I think. I've been having fun with like the Shadow Cat with like PPC sniping, and I'm having fun with like the Arctic Wolf and the Assassin with just running around and SRMing people.
Yeah.
And then when you get into lights, don't tell anyone, but I do have a Raven 3L, and it is fun to narc and tag people when there are alarms on your side.
It's just
but
me
additionally,
and you. There's no one listening. I'll keep you secret.
But additionally, like it is kind of fun to fight assaults in something like a Miss Lynx or a Piranha, and just try and like, oh, this guy could kill me in one shot. Let's make sure he can't hit me.
Yeah, there's an intensity to lights, isn't there, that just makes it kind of edge of the seat.
It's
sweaty palms, yeah.
It's completely different from like any other weight class, really.
Okay, so you had a few there that you named. Favorite map and mode?
Favorite map and mode? I can tell you my least favorite.
Yeah, I think I know the answers to those ones, but it's probably the same as everyone's. But yeah,
it's favorite map and mode. I'm fine with if we're talking quick play here, I'm fine with skirmish and domination usually. Sometimes it gets a little wonky with oh god, what's the capture point one called? I totally just blanked
Conquest?
it. Conquest, yeah. It gets a little wonky with Conquest. Some people have different ideas about how to play Conquest, and it can be a bit of a crapshoot, and kind of, I don't really like how it goes sometimes, so less enthused about Conquest and quick play. As far as maps go, excuse me. I think I'm a pretty big fan. I like Rubelite for, it's got like some cover, it's got some verticality. It's not like an ice cold map, so you do still have to pay attention to your heat. I feel like maybe Rubelite might be my favorite map. I suppose I haven't really thought about it too much, but there's a lot to like in Rubelite, I think.
Well, thank you, Fiora. It has been lovely to talk to you today and chat a little bit about being a streamer and about MechWarrior. For our listeners, if they did want to catch your streams or contact you or listen to you through other methods, what's the best way to get in touch and consume your content?
All right, I'm at twitch.tv/Fiorabunny. That's it's all one word. It's F as in Frank, IORA, Bunny. I'm also at Twitter at Fiorabunny, all one word. There again. And I'm working on some YouTube content. I'll announce that when it comes out. But it's something I definitely need to sort of put the gas down on.
Nice, look forward to it. And of course, we'll put those links in the show notes, so check those out below as well. Right, thanks for listening today, and certainly do hope you get along and check Fiora out. They are fun streams to watch, certainly something that I tune into regularly, and hope you do too. All right, 07 MechWarriors, we'll catch you next time. If you did enjoy this content, then your support would be greatly appreciated, and you can support us in a multitude of ways. You can go to Patreon, Incoming Missile Podcast, and support us there. We have 3 different tiers of support, or of course you can donate one-off amounts, and any in-game content that you could donate to us would also be greatly appreciated. We very much want to hear your feedback, so be sure to reach out to us on our multitude of channels. You can follow us on Twitter at IncomingP. You can reach us via email at incomingmissilepodcast@gmail.com, and please subscribe to us on YouTube. That's Incoming Missile Podcast. So just a quick reminder to check out the Mech Register. You can find the link to that Google form at our Twitter account, and just remember you can fill that form out up to 8 times. Each time you do fill it out is another entry to win, so do get in there, tell us what you think about the mechs that we are featuring, and allow us to collate that information into something useful, and you may just get a mech pack out of it. We look forward to hearing from you. We appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next time.